Psychology says growing up with narcissistic parents doesn't just shape your childhood. It quietly programs your entire personality, and most people don't notice the patterns for years. Today, we're going to explore 3 unusual traits that almost every child of narcissistic parents carries into adulthood. In the animal world, one of the most fundamental instincts is fear. Without fear, there is no warning, no flight, and no strategy for defense. For a child, a narcissistic home is like the savannah. Survival depends entirely on sensing danger before it strikes. This leads to the first trait, hypervigilance to emotional cues. You grow up constantly scanning for shifts in tone, mood, or even the most subtle facial expressions. You learned early on that a small emotional change in a parent could lead to blame, punishment, or the cold sting of withdrawal. Like a giraffe in the wild, you began to sense changes in the emotional landscape. You learned to detect the subtle musky scents, the invisible signals of danger you were and even taught were there. Maybe you memorized the sound of your parents' footsteps, knowing whether it was safe to be seen or better to hide. As an adult, this hypervigilance shows up as overthinking someone's texts, their tone of voice, or even their silence. You find yourself in a room full of happy people, but a warning sign is flashing in your mind. You are always assuming something is wrong, even when absolutely nothing is. You have become a lifelong sentinel, carefully watching the horizon for the first sign of danger. This isn't a flaw, it's a survival response you perfected in an environment of unpredictable caregiving. You were trained by inconsistency. A parent who was warm one moment and cold the next taught you that safety was never guaranteed. So you learned to watch, to listen, and to anticipate, becoming an expert at reading the emotional weather. Your nervous system is essentially hardwired to expect a storm because for years, that's exactly what you got. The second trait is a profound difficulty accepting compliments. You struggle to feel worthy because praise was rare, conditional, or even used as a tool for manipulation. When someone hands you a compliment, it feels less like a gift and more like a bomb about to go off. In nature, fear is born from instinct as much as it is from learning. A young animal has to learn what to be afraid of. You learn to associate kindness with the smell of a scavenger, something waiting to strike. Perhaps you did well in school, only to be told it was still not enough. Or maybe praise was immediately followed by a new, impossible demand. Approval was never consistent, which built a foundation of chronic self-doubt. Today, this looks like brushing off compliments or feeling intensely uncomfortable when you're admired. You might deflect with humor or immediately point out a flaw in your work. You might even find yourself analyzing the other person's motives, believing their kindness must have a hidden agenda trap waiting to snap shut. This is rooted in the early learning model where you imitated your elders. If your parent was self-deprecating or suspicious of others, you absorbed that worldview. You learned through fear that vulnerability was dangerous and trust was a liability. You were taught that being seen was risky, so when someone genuinely sees something good in you, your first instinct is to retreat into the shadows where it feels safer. The third trait is an intense need for control in your relationships and your life. Growing up, you had no control over the emotional chaos or the sudden outbursts that defined your home. To cope, you learned that control equals safety. Just as elephants form a protective wall around a vulnerable calf, you built a wall of rules and routines to protect your inner self. In adulthood, this turns into needing strict daily schedules, planning every detail of a vacation, or seeking constant reassurance from your partner. You feel an overwhelming wave of anxiety when things become unpredictable, even in the healthiest, most stable relationships. You are constantly searching for the reassurance of an elder, because the danger of the river is always on your mind. You scan every conversation for a hidden threat, like a crocodile lurking just beneath the surface. Every part of life can feel like it holds a new terror for someone who grew up in an unstable environment. This need for control isn't about dominating others. It's an attempt to manage your own internal anxiety. It's born from an unending cycle of emotional migration, where you were always searching for stable ground but never found it. You were constantly seeking nourishment, love, approval, safety, but the source was unreliable. So now, you try to control your environment to finally feel secure. But here is the truth that psychology wants you to know. You are not broken. These traits don't mean you're damaged. They mean you survived an emotional battlefield. You are not responsible for the world you grew up in. But you are responsible for the one you create now. Healing starts small. Try practicing saying no just once a week, without offering a long explanation. The next time you feel the urge to apologize for something that isn't your fault, just pause. Take a moment to notice your own needs before you rush to address everyone else's. Take your own hand and walk forward. Overcoming these deep-seated fears is a lesson in patience. Sometimes, you must learn to wait and observe your feelings rather than being overwhelmed by them. The journey to healing is about learning to trust again, not just others, but yourself. It's about discovering your own place in the world, separate from the roles you were forced to play as a child. It is a process of unlearning the survival tactics that no longer serve you and replacing them with self-compassion. You can learn that a compliment is just a compliment, that a change of plans isn't a catastrophe, and that silence doesn't always signal disapproval. It's about realizing that you can be the calm in your own storm. Tell me in the comments, which of these 3 traits hit you the hardest? Sharing your story helps us all feel a little less alone. Remember, in a land once ruled by fear, you are now the one who defines the law. Thanks for watching.